Coming up on Market Shares, how Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison briefly found himself as the richest man in the world following its stock surge.
And President Donald Trump is asking a federal appeals court to allow him to fire Fed Board Governor Lisa Cook before the central banks next week.
And the S&P and NASDAQ had their best week since early August. How the Fed is reacting. Hold on to your wallets because Market Shares starts right now. Well, good afternoon and welcome into Market Shares. I'm Ben Bascuk.
I'm Riley Underwood. Markets closed just a few minutes ago, so let's take a look at our market update. Pretty flat all around today, up actually in all three indexes. This is primarily because most investors are expecting the Fed to cut interest rates probably around next week. That's the consensus that's been going around. NASDAQ especially getting a lift from more large tech AI sectors as well.
Yeah, kind of coming off this four-day rally here. When we're looking at NASDAQ, the one who's been leading the charge is Tesla this week. They rolled out their Mega Block grid battery. Now, this is an insane piece of technology, and it's attracting a lot of investors. It offers 20 megawatts of power. That's enough to power 20,000 homes, Riley. That's a lot of homes.
That's a lot of homes.
It's a lot of homes for Tesla. It's a lot of green for Tesla. It's a lot of money for Tesla. That's why the NASDAQ is up so high this week. You can see the flat rate right there. But like you said, when these interest rates lower, if the Fed chooses to lower them, those bonds, those savings accounts are going to look less attractive. Consumer spending is going to go up, and businesses are going to increase investments, which is why we're seeing this kind of four-day green rally here.
And we saw a little bit with the jobs report come out, a little bit of panic, not quite, but research has suggested the economy is just cooling a little bit. It's not collapsing.
Not collapsing at all. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our market movers of the week. We're going to start off here. I want to ask you a question, Riley. Have you ever seen the show Succession by any chance?
I've not seen it.
You
no.
haven't seen the Succession show. Well, if you have and you're a fan, this is the season finale. It's based off the Murdoch media empire. The Murdochs just passed Fox Corp and News Corp down to Lachlan Murdoch, the oldest son, and the three other siblings took buyouts, about $1.1 billion, Riley, with a B. So pretty pricey there. Fox Corp and News Corp are both up this week. Oh, Fox Corp down in the last couple close. So closing hour here, News Corp still up, forgive me. It is this buyout. What happens is when you have a company buyout, when these family members stop bickering and fighting, that reduces uncertainty for investors. And ideally, you can kind of see this upward trend here. Started high at the beginning of the week and ending relatively high, though we're down about 4.8% here when the market's closed.
And our next market mover is going to be Oracle because they just jumped up 22%, thanks in large part to one of the largest tech deals in history. $330 billion deal with OpenAI. This deal includes a 5-year span of OpenAI purchasing Oracle's AI products, their cloud computing products, starting in 2027. And this will be very interesting to see how Microsoft actually reacts from this. Their stock included because before this, Microsoft was pretty much the only cloud computing software that OpenAI used. And now you're cheating on me with Oracle. Oracle comes in. They're getting one of the biggest deals in history. It'll be interesting to see if Microsoft ups its game or kind of collapses, and not collapses, but in this space and looks to other companies to invest in.
For sure, yeah. Oracle, you mentioned their AI game is strong. A company whose AI game is not strong is Apple. Now, they started off decently this week. They had that iPhone 17 rollout. I can't believe we're already on the iPhone 17. I don't even know where mine is. They had that rollout, and then they had the AirPod rollout with the translator for bilingual conversations. Those kind of kept hopes high, but they fell off because at the end of the day, investors don't think their AI program's all that strong. They don't think it's great. Nothing compared to a company like a Microsoft or an Oracle or even a Google, which we were talking about last week with that antitrust case, was able to maintain all their assets. So Apple's kind of going into this new fiscal year a little weak coming off here because of the doubts surrounding their AI program.
Investors are all in on AI right now. Also, investors may not be in on these prices. The base price, you can get the iPhone 17, $1,099. That's hefty on the wallet. That's up $100 from what the base price was for the iPhone 16. You also get the iPhone Cloud, which is a really thin version of the iPhone Air actually. That starts at $999, so that'll run you a band if you're getting a new iPhone.
So it's a little thinner, but you save a little bit of money, it sounds like. A little less
I guess if you want a bigger one, I don't really get it.
I can't even keep track of the amount of iPhones we're on. I think I have the 14.
Well, I can keep track of 17.
17, oh,
yeah.
There you go. Well, speaking of prices, U.S. consumer prices and unemployment claims hit new 7-month highs in August due to housing and food price increases. This provides quite a challenging economic signal for the Federal Reserve prior to its meeting next week. Consumer prices rose at a seasonally adjusted 0.4% increase for the month, putting the annual rate at nearly 3% in August.
The Labor Department reported an increase in weekly unemployment filings to around 260,000, much higher than the 235,000 estimate. Food prices jumped around 0.5%, while energy was up 0.7%, gasoline up around 2%, likely indicating tariff impacts on prices. The Fed is more focused on service costs as signals of underlying inflation. Historically, tariffs have been looked at as temporary boosts to the prices of goods, but not a long-term inflation driver.
Now, in addition to an increase in unemployment filings, there were fewer jobs added to the U.S. economy. Market Shares analyst Carolina Aguayo is here to explain what this report means for the economy and the Fed ahead of their monthly meeting. Carolina?
That's right, Ben. Government data revisions show that there were 1.2 million fewer jobs added to the U.S. labor market than previously reported. Let's take a look. So these are the latest job revisions from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The orange line represents the original data shared with the public. Now, that was showing steady gains on employment, but the red line, which is the revision, is signaling much slower hiring. Here is JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon earlier this week on the state of the economy.
The economy's weakening. You know, whether that is on the way to recession or just weakening, I don't know, and that just confirms what we already thought, kind of.
And I know
that's a big.
Now, this is important because investors pay close attention to Dimon's views on the economy, given his long tenure guiding the U.S. ban through periods of turbulence. The U.S. trade deal with China has caused businesses not to hire more people until there is more certainty. Economists say that with the job growth tanking, the Federal Reserve will feel pressure to lower interest rates since markets are now expecting a cut at each of the 3 remaining meetings this year. However, lowering interest rates will signal weaker momentum for the overall economy, which is not great. And additionally, the Fed has been weighing whether to cut interest rates later this year. Slower job growth may give them more reason to do so. Despite the slowdown, unemployment remains near historic lows, indicating that the labor market still has some resilience. Let's see.
Yeah, Carolina, it sounds like interest rates are kind of the word of the day here. The main driver behind all our market movers with those prospects, keeping those markets in the green. But it's also a question that's going to the federal government. I mean, we've seen Trump press Fed Chair Jerome Powell relentlessly on these rates. So very interesting to watch in the coming days here.
So what does this slowdown in employment mean for the American people?
Yeah, guys, fewer jobs means that the economy is not growing as rapidly as expected. For workers, this might mean that less opportunities for labor and possibly slower wage growth. Business owners, specifically, might have to tighten budgets and be more cautious when hiring, and essentially making the job market even more competitive.
Yeah, and so Carolina, the president has been asking himself the question I'm going to ask you just about now, time and time again, to Jerome Powell, to the media, to the press. Does this make it more likely that the Fed is going to cut rates in the future?
No, precisely. The Fed is cutting interest rates next week, and there is suspected maybe as much as 50 points. And there are roughly $7 trillion sitting in money market funds right now. As the Fed starts lowering the interest rates, people will be saving less money and spending more, possibly. And specifically, saving rates will become less attractive, and more people will begin to invest in more risk-on assets like stocks and bonds. And okay, so what I'm hearing basically through this entire discussion is that there will be less of job opportunities in the near future, and as the job market will be more competitive, and there will also be less incentive in the market for us to save, basically. So let's keep a close eye on that and keep our dollars close as we watch interest rates closely. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much for that report. Coming up on Market Shares, Trump is taking his tariff case to the Supreme Court. What the outcome could be when we return.
those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Welcome back to Market Shares. Well, the latest in the shooting of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk, officials have identified the person as 22-year-old Utah resident Tyler Robinson. Earlier today, Utah Governor Spencer Cox stated that investigators arrested and identified Robinson after analyzing surveillance footage, interviewing Robinson's family, and reviewing online messages between Robinson and his roommate.
Cox said that a family member of the Robinsons reached out to a family friend that then contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with news that Robinson had confessed. His family told investigators that Robinson had become more political in recent years. Public records indicate that Robinson's last voter registration was in 2021 and his political party is not declared. Kirk's assassination prompted a national outrage and fear for political violence in the U.S. Robinson is expected to be charged with aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm causing bodily injury, and obstruction of justice. He could face the death penalty if convicted.
Well, a judge is blocking President Donald Trump from firing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook for allegedly committing mortgage fraud. U.S. District Court Judge Gia Cobb says, quote, "The public interest in Federal Reserve independence weighs in favor of Cook's reinstatement. Cook claims her removal would violate the Federal Reserve Act's for cause provision. For cause prohibits removal of an individual purely for conduct that occurred before they began in office. Trump's attempts come after months of unsuccessfully pressuring Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. Cobb's decision means Cook will participate in the next Fed's meeting starting on September 16th. The Supreme Court will have the final say in this case, the first ever effort by a president to fire a Fed governor for purported cause.
And just a day after this ruling, the Senate Banking Committee voted to advance the nomination of top White House economic advisor Stephen Moran as the Federal Reserve Governor for the next several months. In a slim 13-11 vote, every Republican on the Banking Committee voted to send Moran's nomination to the full Senate, and every Democrat voted no on the question. Moran has been chosen to replace Adriana Kugler, who unexpectedly resigned in August. If confirmed, Moran will serve until the end of Kugler's term, ending on January 31st.
In an ongoing battle, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear arguments over President Trump's global tariffs. Market Shares analyst Caleb Plank joins us in studio with how this case could impact U.S. trade relations. Lots going on in the tariff world. We've seen kind of raids abroad. We've seen raids here at home affecting the workforce. So Caleb, what's the deal with the tariffs?
Yeah, that's right, Ben. Prior to this decision, two federal courts found that Trump overstepped his presidential authority when he used the International Emergency Economic Power Act to impose high tariffs. This act allows Trump to make decisions without congressional approval, but is meant to be reserved for times of emergency. This could result in the U.S. government having to refund between $750 billion to $1 trillion back to importers. In total, a large sum of that money could include the more than $72 billion in tariff revenue collected by U.S. Customs and Border Protection Enforcement. Tariff refunds are not an uncommon situation, including happening under the Biden administration, but the amount the Trump administration could potentially face is. Last week, the administration filed a declaration to the Supreme Court to expedite the decision on whether or not the tariffs are illegal. Now, earlier this week, the justices agreed to speed up the decision process, which would lessen the amount of money the government is required to refund if they find the tariffs to be illegal. The justices will begin hearing oral arguments the first week of November, and the current tariffs will stay in effect until a decision is made.
Caleb, the High Court's conservative majority has frequently ruled in favor of Trump. I mean, he did appoint 3 of the justices there now. Do you think those 3 justices he appointed, are they going to stick to their loyalties, or is there enough evidence kind of against his tariff power for him to carry these things out?
Yeah, I think that is a tricky one. It is a conservative majority, the Supreme Court, and in past tariff cases, especially with Trump during his first term, they have been seen to be a little lenient with him and give him a little more freedom. But it does ultimately come down to Congress. The Constitution's the one that gives them the power for tariffs. And so I think with this being, it's considered sweeping tariffs, so on more goods than before, we could see them being a little stricter and maybe not having so much leniency with Trump.
Yeah, these tariffs not only affecting the countries, but also the businesses as well. Many big companies have already claimed that they're having to eat the cost of tariffs. How do you feel about companies such as Nike, Hasbro, and the big three American automakers having to raise prices for consumers?
Yeah, that one definitely hurts a bit more. I mean, I'm a big Nike consumer. Got a lot of shoes from them, all my workout clothes are from them. So seeing their prices go up would, it'd hurt a little, especially because that's already a pretty expensive brand. So any more expensive, that might start to get unreasonable. I also think, with the tech industries and the auto industries here in the U.S. and abroad, seeing those prices go up could really affect consumers on those are two of America's very popular industries, so it could definitely affect what people are purchasing. Back to you guys.
Well, Caleb, hopefully you can keep buying those Air Force Ones. Coming up on Market Shares, how Hyundai's immigration raid could leave other businesses reassessing their own capital. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Welcome back to Market Shares. Thanks for sticking with us. Shares of Pfizer and Moderna fell after a report that the Trump administration health officials plan to link COVID vaccines to the deaths of 25 children. Pfizer's stock fell more than 3%, while shares of Moderna dropped more than 7%. This report comes as Health and Human Services Secretary, and boy, that's a mouthful, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. moves to change the vaccine policy in the U.S. He dropped COVID shot recommendations for healthy children and pregnant women and has set new limits on the approval of new vaccines against the virus. Despite this, there have been many studies that demonstrated the shots could be safe and effective.
Yeah, we also watched Tylenol and the company that makes Band-Aids take a tumble last week after those hearings with RFK Jr. So we'll definitely have to follow the big pharma field very closely in the coming weeks with the shakeups at CDC and HHS. Well, it's quite the week for the Ellison family. Warner Bros. Shares soared more than 25% yesterday afternoon after a report that David Ellison's recently merged company, Paramount Skydance, is preparing a takeover bid. This comes as Warner Bros. Announced plans to separate its TV network from its streaming business and studios. It's reported that the bid would be the entirety of Warner Bros. The potential bid highlights intense pressures in the media sector as traditional players are racing to gain scale and streaming leverage amid declining TV viewership. After Paramount's merger with Skydance, Ellison is looking for ways to strengthen the company's film, slate, and streaming hopes. They're also cutting costs and restructuring to save their struggling Paramount Plus service. Riley, lots of news when it comes to streaming. I think a lot of companies are trying to take kind of that Netflix model where we see, I got kicked off my household when I came to school. I don't know about you.
I did too.
Because they're only making money with new signups. And so when they have existing customers, they can roll out content and pour millions into new movies and series. But at the end of the day, if they don't have new signups, then they're not making any money. That's kind of the kicker with streaming.
And it's also that customer loyalty. Will more people stay with Netflix if I can stay on that account, or will people terminate that account? Let's find something else that maybe we can all get on as a family. Kind of interesting to balance that consumer and that business side.
Right, and there's so much content now. I mean, being pushed on HBO, on Peacock, on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, that it's hard to keep up. I mean, it's like I hear about a new series, and then like the new Harry Potter series, I can't watch it because I got another streaming service for it, right? I already got to get streaming off Peacock from someone else and Netflix for my family if it stays around. So we'll see how these streaming models adapt kind of in this changing consumer space.
One streaming service that you can stay on if you're not in the household, that's ESPN Plus. So instead of paying for your own ESPN Plus account, now you can just go to your local restaurant and use theirs. Everpass Media has signed a deal with Disney's ESPN to distribute live games and other content from ESPN Plus's streaming services to bar and restaurants. This deal bulks up Everpass's offering of live sports streaming. They already provide the NFL's Sunday ticket package as well as all NFL games that are available exclusively on streaming. Over 2,000 live events will also be added to ESPN Plus this year, including college football and basketball games, the NHL, soccer, and PGA Tour live events. Everpass CEO Alex Kaplan says the company will remain in discussions for adding more content with current and new partners.
Last week, ICE agents detained hundreds of South Korean workers at the Hyundai plant in Georgia. With the workers arriving back in South Korea today, market shares analyst Ethan Kraut breaks down the whole situation and how it will impact businesses in the future. Ethan?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yesterday, the more than 300 South Korean workers were released from a Georgia detention center and boarded a chartered Korean Air flight back to Seoul. The workers who were arrested last week during the largest single-site raid in Homeland Security history at a Hyundai battery plant in Ellaville, Georgia, were originally planning on flying home Wednesday. However, the flight was delayed with American and Korean officials negotiating a number of terms, including whether the workers can re-enter the U.S. and if they would need to wear handcuffs while being transported. Now, despite the large outcry from the raid, White House border czar Tom Homan says this is just the beginning.
We're going to do more worksite enforcement operatives because, number one, it's a crime to enter this country illegally. Number two, it's a crime to knowingly hire an illegal alien. And these companies that hire illegal aliens, they undercut the competition that's paying U.S. citizen salaries. Look, no one hires an illegal alien on the goodness of their heart. They hire them because they can work them harder, pay them less, and undercut the competition that hires U.S. citizen employees.
Now, critics of these immigration crackdowns are worried about the impacts they will have on American businesses. Industries such as construction, hospitality, and agriculture rely heavily on immigrants without legal status to complete the necessary work. With the fear their workers may be arrested or deported, foreign companies may slow production in America, though. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung said Korean companies will be hesitant to maintain and make new investments in the U.S. if America does not improve its visa system. In a press conference, he added, it's not like these are long-term workers. When you build a facility or install equipment at a plant, you need technicians. But the United States does not have that in the workforce yet, and yet they won't issue visas and let our people stay and do the work.
Yeah, Ethan, so really interesting because I think there's two sides to this, right? So the proponents of this are saying, hey, you're hiring illegal workers who are coming here and working for cheaper under harsher labor conditions. And the other side saying, hey, but they're doing these certain sector jobs, talking about construction as one, for example, that American workers may not be able to do or aren't willing to do. Those are kind of what the two sides are saying. But what I'm wondering is if there's any evidence at all, because the Trump administration has come out multiple times and said that they're taking jobs from American workers, and that's kind of driving these deportations. Is there any evidence at all to support that claim from the administration?
I mean, yeah, so the Trump administration is saying that, but there are many jobs in America that really rely on immigration. Trump said that would make exceptions for these, such as hospitality and agriculture, who, according to the American Immigration Council, they use a high percentage of their workforce. Construction has about 14% of their workforce is undocumented immigrants, agriculture about 13%, and hospitality only has about 7%, but that 7% of their workforce is over 1 million immigrants working. So while Trump did say that they were planning on making exceptions for these, Stephen Miller, the White House Associate Chief of Staff, said that they will be reversing exceptions for raids on farms for agriculture and on hotels, making it more difficult for these workers to continue to work if they're undocumented.
Well, Ethan, over these last few months, we've seen a lot of mass deportations, but most of them are to Mexico, Central America, South America. This one seems to be making headlines a little bit. Is it because it's South Korea and that's not the norm?
Yeah, that's part of it. We've been kind of used since Trump wrote down that golden escalator back in 2015. He's been really talking a lot about Mexico and their immigrants. We haven't heard a lot about South Korea, one of the U.S.'s top allies. But they have a lot of companies like this Hyundai plant. This plant also is part of LG, another Korean company. And their workers there were supposed to have specific types of visas that the Trump administration is now really making difficult to get. So now these workers either have the wrong type of visas or they're working here on expired visas. And these workers are here because they're supposed to be training the American workers, and they've already been trained in South Korea on how to work on these electric vehicle batteries. And without these workers, it'll be really difficult to continue to build these types of plants.
Yeah, definitely interesting, especially with the amount of EV growth that we've seen, even with Tesla rolling out those new batteries just today. So we'll have to see how those visa systems change and if the immigration workforce changes in general. Thanks so much, Ethan.
Thank you.
Coming up on Market Shares, Girl Scout cookie lovers can look forward to a brand new flavor in just a few months. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Market Shares. Cookie lovers around the country got some great news on Tuesday when Girl Scouts of the USA announced a new type of cookie, Riley. They call them Explore Mores. This new variety is said to be a Rocky Road ice cream flavor with an almond cream filling.
The Girl Scouts also announced the discontinuation of 2 cookie flavors, s'mores and Toast Yay, making this the first time the organization has given advanced warning of a discontinuation. The new Explore Mores will be joining the updated line of fan favorites like Thin Mints and Samoas this cookie season, which typically runs from January through April. Now, Ben, I know you're a cookie monster yourself.
All right, I think you have 2 pieces on the pot on that one.
You gotta love these Girl Scout cookies.
I want to ask your favorite, let's say our favorite Girl Scout cookie on 3.
Right.
We'll see if we line up. You ready? 3, 2, 1.
Thin
Samoas.
Mints.
Oh. Thin Mints are good. I like to freeze them. You ever try them frozen?
I haven't tried them
Solid.
frozen.
Highly recommend. I know usually it make it even hungry. Usually we eat on this show, but
I know.
We'll have to see if when these roll out, these like s'more mores. I'm a big s'more person.
I know.
So
I like it. They're just,
I
they
can't
got to bring
complain.
those prices down,
I'll tell you,
man.
America's
I mean,
youngest
what do they need
entrepreneurs,
all this money
they
for?
work hard. On Marshall Street, I see them all the time.
They're not working. They're just standing there.
No.
They're just standing
With
there.
parental supervision, training the entrepreneurs of tomorrow, Riley. Maybe one day we'll be talking about them on the show, right?
Maybe.
Well, that's all the time we have for you on this episode of Market Shares. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and have a great night. I'm Ben Bascuk.
And I'm Riley Underwood. Enjoy.